Good morning, you handsome bitches. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to talk about the difference between mental health and physical health and how many people actually get the lines blurred and get it wrong and fuck it up for themselves. And number one, the perfect example is when people start to go, well, I exercise for my mental health. And although you will get mental benefits from exercising, the difficulty is that so much of our mental struggles don't come from a lack of exercise. Exercise can kickstart it, so to speak. It can help initiate certain chemicals in the brain that allow you to feel better. But the actual structure of our thinking that contributes to a poor state of mental health, I know there's many factors, but one thing that's in our control is the structure of how we think and how we apply meaning to certain things. That's within our control. And so when we learn how to go, this is mental health and this is physical health, and when I address my mental health, and I'll teach you some ways that you can do that today, but when I address my mental health, it actually improves my physical health. And when I address my physical health, it actually improves my mental health, rather than going, I'm doing one to do the other. Otherwise, here's what's going to happen. The individual that has anxiety or self-claims has anxiety, I'm not saying their experience is wrong, I'm saying that's what they'll say. And they will go, well, when I run and then when I exercise, I feel good. So that what they'll do is that they'll exercise and they'll push themselves to a degree, and in that state, and it's usually some sort of fight or flight, usually kind of flighty state, they go into a sympathetic nervous system state, which is fight or flight. And in that state, you can't think about your attacks. You can't think about what people think about you. You literally, from a neural standpoint, is operating as if you're being chased by something. And so in your mind, you know you're not. So you kind of feel safe about it. But what ends up happening is that you end up, like, it becomes a drug. You end up having to push that even further and further and further and further and further. And you're exercising on behalf of moving away from something, rather than exercising on behalf of what can I do? What is my body capable of? And how can I learn to really own my body and move in a way that's going to help me move and function well for the decades to come? They're from two completely different places. And so when we look at physical health as that, knowing there's going to be mental benefits, but when we look at mental health, we got to see it in a different lens, because if we keep going down this exercising for my anxiety route, you're going to get injured. At some point, you will get injured, because it's almost like a drug that you have to take a little bit more of, then a little bit more of, then a little bit more of, then a little bit more of, in order to outrun your anxiety. And so you get to a point where you get injured, and all you can do then is sit there and face your anxiety. I've seen people, and this is no criticism, I've been this individual. I've seen it through thousands of people that I've worked with. They get to a point where the idea of not being able to train is like crumbling for them. It's like, good, yes, I'm glad you're here, because now you get to face the thing you've been running away from. You've only been kicking the can down the road, right? You've been dealing with the symptom, not the problem. Now, as painful as it is, you get to meet the problem. And when you can start to meet the problem behind the problem, or the problem behind the symptom, you start to heal, and you start to be able to exercise from a completely different place. But not only that, you start to understand yourself from a completely different place. Now, one of the challenges when it comes to identifying physical health versus mental health is that mental health is subjective in nature. And it's exceptionally hard in a world that we live in that fundamentally values data, statistics, measuring things. Another way to think of that is looking at things rather than looking in it. Now, when we look at the brain, we're not looking in it. And when we look in the brain, we're looking at the mind. And the mind is subjective. It is subjective in nature. People go, oh, so subjective experience. It's like, yeah, it still exists, and it plays a key role in actually how we structure our thinking. Now, if we start to learn how we create particular patterns of thinking, and more importantly, why we value those types of patterns of thinking, we can fundamentally shift our experience. And there are some profound researchers out there and bodies of work that can help you do this. I'm going to share a few of them with you today. Now, one of them gets a bit of like bashing, and I think a lot of the bashing is fair, because I think people use this type of body of work from a really weird, sleazy, salesy type place, is NLP. Now, NLP done well is the study of the subjective experience. NLP done poorly is change your life in a weekend, do this once, drop in, and you change forever, and rah, and it's just a cult in that regard. But NLP done really, really well from an objective standpoint, or from what's called an integral standpoint. By the way, all my study over about 8 years has been done through the coaching room, and they have done an exceptional job of delivering NLP work. But it's almost like that is one condiment in the pantry. So NLP can be useful, but it's fundamentally limiting as well. So, but it is useful for us to get a good idea of how we may structure our subjective experience. And one of the individuals that has had a significant input into that is Dr. Michael Hall. And he has done exceptionally well of going, hey, we've recognized that these what's called meta programs, or otherwise patterns of thinking, I've been able to identify 60 different types of patterns of thinking, and people value these in different ways, and it filters how they see reality, because we don't see reality as it is. We see reality as we are. And where real growth occurs is when we start to gain flexibility and distance with our thinking. And that means we're able to start to see different perspectives and value different things, or see why things might be valued otherwise. And then we start to choose values, or another way to have it is that we start to have values rather than values have us, which is a question that Jung asked, which is a great question. Do people have ideas, or do ideas have people? So this is really important. You've got something like the NLP model, which at its core can be done really, really well in allowing us to simply just understand how we structure our thinking. Look, to be fair, it's not lost on me that done poorly, and a lot of them I would suggest, from my opinion, do it poorly, just my subjective experience. But you've got an opportunity there to start to map that out. Now, these maps should be improving. They should be able to get better and better and better, just like Google Maps or the next thing. They should have updates over time. But at the moment, it's what we call a near reality model. And I think it's good. I think it's useful is probably a better way to put it. But you need to make it useful. You need to find it useful. So you've got that. You've got meta programs. There's a book by Dr. Michael Hall called Figuring Out People. And there's another tool called the Identity Compass. The only problem with the Identity Compass, and Arne Mouse, who delivered that, he was actually a student of Michael Hall's. It's a profound tool. I use it with all my clients, people that come to my immersions, people that join my programs. They all do the Identity Compass, but it's like, it costs me as a facilitator $250 to order the test. It's not a cheap test, but the results on it are profound, and you can only order it through a facilitator. What it will do, based on a bunch of real tedious questions, it'll give you an indication of how much you value particular patterns of thinking. And then with a qualified coach, not just qualified as in like useful, like that kind of quality, so quality coach might be a better term, you can help unpack why you value those sort of things, and that's where you start to gain flexibility. So it's not just understanding what you think or why you think, it's understanding why you value that way of thinking, and then how to gain flexibility in your thinking that can fundamentally shift your whole experience around mental health. And another really simple tool is the Enneagram. It's one that I've spoken to heaps before. It's a really, really simple personality type indicator. And here's the beauty of the Enneagram. You can do that. I'll put a link in the description. I don't get any. It's $20. I don't get anything from it. It's just, I don't even get your results. You just do it yourself. But it gives you an idea of what your typology may be across 9 core types. What it doesn't do is doesn't go, you're a type A, you're a type. It does not box you. The whole point of the Enneagram is to unbox you, because your personality is not who you are, right? I have a good idea of who I am. I know who I am. It's like, well, you know who you show up as, right? Personality is literally derived from the Greek word, which means the mask we wear at the drama. That's what personality, the persona that we show, what's underneath that is who we are. And so your personality gets in the way of who you are. It's not who you are. And so the more and the deeper you can understand your persona, your personality, the more you can unpack that, the more you can be present. Because in order to be present, which has so much to do with positive mental health, it's not about being more present. It's about removing the shit that's getting in the way of you being here. And it's possible to do that. And I've helped thousands of people do that along the process. And what I mean by saying that is that I know it's possible. And that's individuals with ADHD, individuals with autism, individuals with all... I won't give out too many more personal details, I guess, otherwise I'll go too far down that track. But these individuals have difficulties along these lines. Maybe they've been medicated in the past, and they've been able to, in their own doing, start to shift those patterns of thinking that allow them to understand their mental state, mental structures, mental health. And now we've got a mental health and a physical health model that we can actually start to move forward with. So it's not mind over matter, and it's not starts with the body, it is mind and matter. And that is a fundamental different approach. All you need to do is add on a good community and add on good systems and environment. And now we're starting to have a really integral approach to health, which is foundational for long-term health. Not just long-term health, like we're talking joy, performance, all of it. So there is a difference between physical and mental health. Sorry to tell you, but if you're trying to just exercise for your mental health, you're going to at some point run into a brick wall and you're going to be sitting there with a big ball of anxiety right in your face that you're going to have to deal with. And if that's where you're at, I'm so happy for you because you are this close to a breakthrough, and I hope you go through it because there is no other way but to go through it. And on that note, team, I'm done. Until next time. Look, if you want more of this, subscribe. I'm going to do more of this. If you would like to read more of this and also get behind the scenes access to my manuscript as I write it and give feedback and read along, then join my Substack. It'll be in the notes somewhere below. Otherwise, I'm out. Until next time. Peace and pizza. I'll see you soon.